Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is part 3 of my semi-annual favorites, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics in makeup, and that would be blush. I am such a blush collector. I always have to go and buy the newest formulas and colors, yet for some reason all the ones I'm going to talk about today, or almost all of them, are kind of older, more classic formulas that I've been using for years. They're just the ones that I keep going back to. Even though I have all these new ones, I just feel like these are the best of the best. So first I'm going to talk about my favorite powder blush formulas, and then I'm going to get into some baked formulas as well as my favorite cream blush, and then at the end I'll talk about my favorite drugstore and high-end blush palettes. So without further ado, let's get started. So my first drugstore favorite blush is a classic, and they're probably the cheapest blushes in my collection, but I mean that in the best possible way. These are the Wet n Wild Color Icon blushes, and I love these so much. I was wowed by them as soon as I tried them. I honestly wasn't expecting too much for the price point, but they're super soft and easy to pick up on a brush, and they blend really beautifully on your cheeks. I also love the color selection. I'll put up some swatches for you guys. I would say my favorite of all the shades is probably Rose Champagne. It's just such a beautiful pinky nude color. It has a slight bit of shimmer to it, but it doesn't accentuate texture. I wouldn't say that it's like glittery or anything like that. It's just a slight sheen. I also love Apricot in the middle. It's a really pretty peach color. And Mellow Wine is also, even though it's a little bit deeper on my skin tone, I love that one in the fall, especially if I use a lighter hand with it. I think it's just a really beautiful matte shade. So honestly, you really cannot beat these for $2.99. I've tried blushes from Revlon and L'Oreal that are more expensive than these, and they hardly show up on your skin or they feel scratchy. These are amazing for the price. They're so, so good. And then my other favorite drugstore blush would have to be the Flower Beauty Flower Pots. Now, when I first saw these, I was thinking they look just like the Milani Rose blushes. I actually like these a lot better. I do like the Milani ones, but these are just at another level. They feel so high-end. They're just super silky, and they blend unbelievably on your cheeks. They look like they just sort of melt in, and they don't look like a layer of powder sitting on top. They're just so amazingly blendable, and the shades are absolutely stunning too. You'll see in my swatches here how rich and pigmented these are. One of my favorite shades is Warm Hibiscus, and this one is very NARS Orgasm-like. It's a peachy pink with a gold sheen to it. It is stunning. I always get compliments when I wear it, and honestly, you don't even need to wear a highlight with it because it's sort of like your highlight and blush in one. I also really love the shade Sweet Pea, which is a cool toned matte pink, and that one is stunning. I'm actually wearing that one today. And then Peach Primrose is just another really pretty peachy matte color, and Wild Rose is really, really beautiful pop of pink for summer. I think they're about 10 bucks a piece, so not a bad price, especially when you consider the formula is just as good as high-end very easily. So moving on to my favorite higher-end powder blushes, the Boms are absolutely one of my number ones. I have almost all the colors that they make, and I just can't get enough. Every time they come out, I have to buy another one because they are so long-lasting on your cheeks, and the formula is really good too. Again, just like the others, they pick up really easily with a brush. They blend beautifully on your cheeks very seamlessly. And I have blushes that are closer to the $30 range, like the Tarte Amazonian Clay blushes, the NARS Benefits blushes, and these are around $21 each, but they are just as long lasting, and the formula is just as good, if not better. And another reason that I reach for these too is just because I feel like the shades are so on point. I love the finishes, I love the undertones. There's just something about these shades that are so super flattering on the skin. So let me go through some swatches with you really quickly. One of my favorites is Bom Beach. This one is such a beautiful nude, especially if you have more fair skin. Balm Springs is a little bit bolder for sure. It has sort of more of a corally undertone, but that one is really, really pretty for a pop in the summertime. Also, Down Boy and Frat Boy are probably two of my favorites. I think these are the first ones I ever purchased. Down Boy is way more of a cooler tone pink and actually reminds me a lot of the Sweet Pea one from the Flower Beauty line. So if you're looking for a dupe for this one, I would say Sweet Pea is a really good match. And then Frat Boy, this is probably my favorite of all of the Boms blushes because it's the perfect peachy pink nude, especially for my skin tone. I just think it's super, super flattering. Hot Mama is another very like NARS Orgasm like peachy pink with a gold shimmer. Again, very similar to the Flower Beauty Warm Hibiscus. I think that's another really good dupe for this one. And then Cabana Boy is the one that I don't reach for that often just because it's a little bit deep for my skin tone, but it's just a really beautiful plummy color. And then the last one is actually from their In Stain line. I only have one of these, but this is the Argyle shade, and it's just a really bright pink. And these In Stain blushes are actually supposed to stain your cheeks, but I don't find that they last any longer than their other ones. I think they're all super, super long lasting. And another tip quickly about the Bom's blushes is that 3 or 4 times a year they actually do a 50% off site-wide sale. So a lot of these I've actually purchased during that time. So instead of $21, they're about $10.50, which is the price of like one of these Flower Beauty ones. So if you can hold off for their semi-annual sales that they have, I definitely would, and then grab some then. That's when I always like to stock up. And then my other favorite high-end blushes are the Lorac Colorsource blushes. I have no idea why nobody talks about these because they are fantastic. They actually feel quite a bit like the Flower Beauty ones. They're super silky and finely milled, and when you blend them on your cheeks, they just are so super seamless. They look like they become one with your skin. They're absolutely beautiful. And also they're $23, which is a lot better than some of those other blushes I mentioned that are in the $30 range. And I actually think they are a better formula as well. So I'm going to show you some swatches quickly so you can see how beautiful these are. One of my absolute favorite shades, and it's a go-to for me, is Tinge. And this one is like the most beautiful nude blush, especially if you have a lighter skin tone like I do. It's just like one of my favorite everyday shades to wear. I also am in love with Prism and Spectra. These two are really, really pretty on my skin tone. One is more of like a peachy color and one is more pink. Technicolor is a really sort of pretty pop of corally peach. And then Aura and Chroma are a little bit deeper. I bought these online during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale when they had these half off. And I thought they were going to be a little bit lighter based on the website. So I don't reach for these all that often, but if I did, I would definitely have to use a light hand with them because they are super pigmented. Alright, so next up, let's talk baked blushes. And I have 2 different formulas that are my favorites that I want to share with you. One drugstore and one high end. And the reason that I put baked blushes in a separate category is because even though they feel like a powder, they actually start out as a cream. And then they're baked for about 24 hours or so until they harden into a powder, but they still retain some of those properties that a cream blush would have. So they're very silky, very smooth. They just glide across your skin and blend very seamlessly and kind of melt in. So they don't sit on top kind of like a powder would. They actually look like they become one with your skin and have a very natural finish. Also, a lot of times baked blushes are marbleized where they have several different tones sort of mixed in together, and I love that because when you pick it up with a brush and you swirl your brush around, you pick up a couple of different colors and it really gives it this beautiful rich dimension that looks absolutely stunning on your cheeks. Most of the blushes though that I'm going to show you actually have shimmer to them, and I think that's sort of common when it comes to baked blushes. I feel like most of them do have quite a bit of shimmer, but it is very finely milled. I don't notice it accentuating texture on my skin, and I love these when I don't really feel like applying a highlight, or sometimes if you just don't want that like bright bold highlighter look but you want your cheeks to have a glow. These are absolutely beautiful for that. So first, my favorite ones from the drugstore would have to be the Milani baked blushes. These are around $7.99 or so depending on where you buy them, and I'll show you some swatches really quickly. Luminoso is a classic and one of my absolute favorite shades. I have heard a rumor that they changed Luminoso. I have the older version. Mine is about 2 years old now, so I think I have the older version, but some people were saying that they reformulated it or maybe the colors changed. I can't remember exactly. I know people had said that it wasn't as good anymore, which is a shame if that's true. Other favorites of mine are Rose d'Oro and Berry Amore. They're just really beautiful neutrals. Also, I love the pop of color that Coralina gives, but that one I would say has the most shimmer. It actually is glittery, which I'm not a fan of. So sadly, even though I like the color, I'm not crazy about that one particular shade. But if you don't mind a little glitter, it is a really, really beautiful color. And my favorite higher end baked blush are the Lorac Baked Blush and Brightens. These are $28, so they're a little bit more expensive, but I actually buy mine every year during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale when they go 50% off, and they are worth every penny. Even if you buy them at full price, they are absolutely gorgeous on the skin. They just give this beautiful radiance, and I always get compliments on my blush every time I wear these. I have the shades Pink Buttercream, and that's probably my favorite shade out of all of them. It's just so flattering on lighter skin tones like mine. Tropic Hues is another beautiful one I tend to reach for in the summer quite often because it's just a really, really beautiful pop of peachy pink, almost with like a coral tone to it. And then Honeysuckle is one that I got more recently, and this one is a little bit more of a nude, almost bronzy color, but again, really, really beautiful in the summertime. All right, and then moving on to cream blushes. I actually don't own any high-end cream blushes. I have a few different drugstore ones, but my favorite one is definitely the ColourPop Super Shock Cheeks. These are such a nice formula because they're more of a mousse than a cream. A lot of the other drugstore blushes that I've tried, they come usually in a stick form, and when I put them on, they never completely dry down and they always end up feeling sticky on my cheeks. And these are more of a mousse, so actually you have a few seconds to blend, maybe like 10 seconds or so, and then they set, so you can actually apply powder products on top of it, which is what I tend to do in the wintertime when my skin is really dry and it won't grab onto a powder blush. I put this down first and then I apply a powder on top, and it makes it last such a long time. In the summertime, I just reach for these on their own, and I think they're so beautiful as well. Again, because they dry down, they don't feel sticky even when it's humid out. I have actually gotten comments when I mention these on Instagram. I talk about them in my stories sometimes, and I've gotten comments asking how I apply these because so many people are like, I try to put them on with a brush and they end up looking streaky or they look weird. Honestly, I don't use a brush with these at all. I just use my fingers, and I think it works out great. So I wouldn't even bother with a brush. I just dip my fingers in here. I usually start like in the apple of my cheek. I just rub it really quickly, and then I just start brushing back like this, really short, quick strokes until it's all blended in, and it sets and it's beautiful. So I have no issues with these. So definitely skip the brush, just to go straight for your fingers. I think that's the best approach when it comes to these. So let me show you some swatches really quickly of my favorite colors that I own. So first up is Between the Sheets, and this is like the perfect neutral that goes with any look that you try to create. It's a pinky beige, and I think whether you have a cool tone look going on or a warm tone like on your eyes and your lips, this will just coordinate perfectly with anything. It also pairs really well under other blushes when I want to layer them up, like I was saying before. And then Aphrodisiac is actually a new one that I just got recently, and I love how it's this really cool tone brown. I could actually use it for a contour if I wanted to, but I do really love it just as another really neutral blush option. And I also think it'll look really great in the summertime if I'm doing more of a nude makeup look. And then Holiday is another favorite of mine. I actually just repurchased this one a couple of weeks ago because my old one was a few years old and it was dried out, but I love this one in the summertime as well because it's just this beautiful pop of pinky coral, and it looks really crazy in the jar, but on the skin it sheers out beautifully and it just brightens up my whole complexion. I absolutely love this color. And Prenup is this gorgeous cool tone mauve that it's one of my favorite cool toned blushes to wear of all time. It's just so super flattering, especially if you have a cooler undertone like I do. So then last but not least, I have two blush palettes to share with you, one drugstore and one high-end. And my favorite drugstore blush palette of the moment is the BH Cosmetics Classic Blush Palette. This has 10 shades, and I got this at my local Kohl's a couple months ago for 10 bucks. So it is a steal for this palette because you have such a beautiful range of colors in here, pretty much every color that you would need. There's mainly mattes, but there are a couple of satins in here. There's no real shimmers, so if you don't like shimmery blushes too, this is a really beautiful palette. It's just super flattering. You have, you know, cooler tones in here, you have warmer tones. There's even this like bronzy color here that looks beautiful as a bronzer on really fair skin, or just as a really pretty nude blush. It's also really nicely pigmented, but not overly so you're not gonna get like crazy clown cheeks. I think the powders are just so blendable and soft, and I am just super impressed with this palette overall. For 10 bucks, you honestly cannot beat it. And then my favorite high-end blush palette is the NARS Narcissist Wanted Volume 1. This is another more recent purchase for me, but I've been using this a ton the last couple of months. Really, the only shade I don't use in here is this really, really bright one, because on my skin tone, it just is too much. I honestly wasn't even gonna buy this palette, but when I swatched it in store at Sephora, I was just like, okay, I need this in my life because these colors are just so flattering. This purple shade even, which I didn't think I would like, I love because it's another cool tone shade. It's one that I really don't have in any other single blush or palette, and it looks so, so good on my skin tone. Also, you get a little bit of a highlight in here, which is gorgeous as well. It's super smooth. It kind of reminds me of their Hot Sands highlighter, which I have in a single, and it's one of my favorite highlights. It's subtle, but it just gives like the most beautiful glow. So I think it's definitely a splurge, but I am getting my money's worth out of it, so I'm really, really happy with this one. Alright guys, that does it for today's blush favorites. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and also let me know in the comments below what are your favorite blushes. I would love to hear your recommendations. If there's something I haven't tried, I will definitely pick it up. I always get so many great recommendations from you guys. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.